advice do you have for somebody who gravitates toward addictive behaviors when they are bored? This is a great question, and I feel like so many people struggle with this. And you can replace boredom with any emotion you so choose. It's not just boredom. Now, I'm coming at you from personal experience here, okay? I do not have a bachelor's, a master's, or a doctorate, or any such thing behind my name. I am a health and life coach, but I am also someone who's battled with lifelong addictions, with drugs, with alcohol, cigarettes, compulsive shopping, binge eating, stress eating, restrictive eating, diet after diet, being so rigid that I was white knuckling everything with social addiction, with social media, with just the screens in general. So I have lots of experience here. I've learned a lot of what to do and what not to do. And I've also learned what questions to ask, because with a question like this, what I found with working with other people and coaching other people with addictive like behaviors is we're often looking, how do I actually maintain recovery? Or how do I not be an addict, right? Those are understandable questions. I get it. I've asked them numerous times. Now, I've spent a lot of time in inpatient treatment for addictions and trauma, for intensive outpatient treatment, years of counseling. I've gone to events, to seminars. I've listened to podcasts from the experts and read their books. Done a lot of different things here. So I have a lot of knowledge on what tools to use, and those tools are great. But guess what? One of the most frustrating things for me personally not because I didn't know the tools, but because I never thought to use them when I needed them most. You see, when someone is first starting out in their recovery, they get triggered, they get tempted, and their first thought isn't, what tool do I need out of my toolbox today? No, it's, how do I get rid of this right here, right now? I don't want to do this. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be this way. That discomfort right there is uncomfortable. And that's what we're looking at here. So I now ask the question is, how do I learn how to tolerate the discomfort? Most of us, I dare say, want to experience joy. We want to experience peace, like that internal peace. We want to be still. We want the quiet up here and in here. The thing is, those things right there are things we're not used to having. Some of us only know how to experience joy when we're using a certain substance, whether it's sugar, caffeine, drugs, alcohol, what have you. And I call that deceptive joy, because when you learn how to experience joy without any of those things, it actually feels a bit different and it feels so much better. So how do you get from that? Like, how do you learn to remember to use the tools when you actually need them? I'm going to give you a story here to help drive the point home and help you understand here. This is my own personal experience, and I'm going to use emotional outbursts, like explosive anger here. I used to get explosively angry, primarily at coworkers and my boss. And I would go back in my office and feel quite ashamed of myself and embarrassed, humiliated, right? Didn't like who I was. And I would just drive me nuts, because I'm like, why didn't I think to do X, Y, or Z? I could have not blown up at them, and I could have just done X, Y, or Z. Now, at that same time, I incidentally stumbled across the answer I was looking for. You see, I was working in functional medicine, and at that time, the cold water immersion was a big hype out there, right? For immune health. And I liked to biohack, because working in functional medicine, people always had questions, and I wanted to be able to give them, hey, this is the data, and this is my personal experience with it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice cold water therapy, and I'm doing this for my clients. That's a key point here, right? So I'm doing it for them. Now, when it was middle of winter time when I first started doing this, and I live in Montana, it can get pretty gnarly, pretty cold here. So when I was doing the cold water therapy, it was miserable. It was miserable. And when I do it, I would shiver. It was hard to breathe, and I just wanted it to be over. I'm like, how is this building up my immune system? And I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to go to the warm water, and I did a few times. And I would just say, no, Jackie, no, you're doing this for your clients. Just see it through. Just see it through. Well, the knowledge that I had around being cold is when you shiver and it's hard to breathe, it actually makes it more difficult for you to tolerate the discomfort. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn how to regulate my breathing and how to not shiver, how to relax when in this uncomfortable cold water. And I did. I learned. It took a lot of practice, but over and over I kept practicing. Now it got to the point where I could get into the cold water, be shocked, and within a few seconds be relaxed, not shiver, just chill, just be there. I could do that in a matter of a few seconds. What I also noticed was when I was emotionally feeling triggered at work, I wasn't exploding on people. No, automatically my brain thought to breathe and relax, breathe and relax. I didn't choose to breathe and relax in that moment. I didn't think about it. My brain just did it. Now, I noticed this in other situations as well, because anxiety was a big part of my life as well. It was hard for me to go shopping. It was hard for me to drive. There's a lot of things that just anxiety took over my life. And I noticed that it became easier and easier to calm myself down from that mental part of the anxiety. So, once I discovered this, I began to take a look at it. And what I realized was that I've been working this angle all wrong when it comes to addictions and learning how to use the tools when I'm feeling triggered or tempted. And I realized I taught myself how to use the tools in a situation where I didn't actually need them. I didn't need them in the cold water, right? I was practicing this in the situations where I didn't need it. So that way, when I was in a situation where I did need it, my brain would automatically jump to it, because explosive anger or that temptation, that discomfort, whether it's with boredom or whatever it is, physiologically, they tend to feel the same or quite similar in nature, and our brain doesn't know the difference. So when I was being tempted, I would automatically jump to breathing and relaxing, and that right there gave me enough of a window to remember to use other tools, like play out the scenario. Do I want to really have the consequences as when I play it out and I know the consequences, because I have plenty of experience of experiencing consequences from binge eating, from drinking, from drugs and all of that. And every time the answer is no, I don't want those consequences. So it made it easier to make a different choice. There were times where I would still follow through and make the choice I really didn't want to make. But what I found even in doing that is that I had enough awareness that I was able to pay attention to how I actually felt. Like when I would drink or binge eat, I could actually pay attention, and I realized I don't like how I feel while I'm actually doing it. Not just the aftermath, but the event itself. I didn't like it. Who would have thought? I'd spent 20 plus years drinking, and turns out I don't even really care much for the feeling of earning a buzz, earning a drunk. Who would have thought that, right? So what I'm getting at here is the best advice I have in this situation, without knowing this person, right? I didn't have a one-on-one conversation. I don't know the in and outs of what they think and what they feel and what their life is truly like. But what I learned is learn how to be uncomfortable. Boredom is uncomfortable. It's not something we're used to tolerating. But learn how to use the tools when you don't need them. And if you have questions, I create a lot of my content based off of what you ask me. So ask away.